The always ready for breakfast deal.
Going to bed already?
Yep. Breakfast at Mickey D's tomorrow.
So?
Sooner I go to bed, sooner it'll be morning. Sooner I'll be at Mickey D's.
This is actually brilliant.
You can come too. Turn out that light.
There's a deal for every breakfast strategist at McDonald's.
Mix and match 2 for just $3. Like a sausage biscuit, sausage McMuffin, or hash browns, and pair with a $1 any size Dr. Pepper. Price and participation may vary, cannot be combined with any other offer, single item at regular price.
Your favorite band's about to play a sold-out show, and you definitely got tickets. And drinks. Now hurry and make it back to your spot. Past this person and that person, about 20 more. Ooh, watch out for feet.
Hey!
Just keep going. A little further. Oh, there's your friend.
Over here!
Right where you want to be. Close enough to see the set list. And they're definitely playing your song. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Welcome to Cryptids of the Corn. Each week, Justin and Jay take a look at a topic in the crypto and paranormal world. They focus on the Midwest and Appalachia of the U.S., but sometimes they venture out with everything from well-known monster sightings to one-off cryptids, live person interviews to actual fieldwork sneaking in some science lessons. There's sure to be something you'll enjoy. Please join us this episode of Cryptids of the Corn.
Hello, hello, and welcome back to Cryptids of the Corn podcast. I am the great and powerful Mr. E.
And I am your friend in the corn, Jay.
And together, like I said, we are Cryptids of the Corn podcast. Today's episode is going to be really science heavy on the top end and really not on the back end.
Well, we love science here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Especially me.
Yes. So we're going to go through some terms that I use on the show from time to time and maybe have not explained fully what they mean. And then we're going to apply those terms to Bigfoot and Dogman.
Ooh.
So these terms are, if you ever hear these on a show or, you know, another show or a TV show or anything like that, now you'll know what they fully mean.
You should.
Yeah, at least, you know, so you make your own assessments.
At least they'll make a lot more sense to you.
Because I use the terms genotype and phenotype a lot on the show.
And before we dig into it, I know what those are, but I also I kind of know what those are. Let's
feel
put it
like
that way.
people roughly do.
Yeah.
You probably learned it in 8th to 9th grade biology. Mm-hmm. But most people forget them pretty quick because you don't use them.
Okay, true. You hear it on TV or you see it and you just know, like, okay, that's what that means.
Yeah, there's a pretty big difference, but I've heard them on TV being used interchangeably.
Ooh, okay.
And they're not interchangeable.
So
they're similar things, but they're not interchangeable.
Like tortoise and turtles.
Yes.
So, all right, which one are you going to do first?
So I'm going to read this. This is basically from a science magazine, and they kind of just go through the types. So I'm going to read the first little blurb, and then we'll go into the definitions, and then we'll go into differences about them.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, should I say what I think they are before we start?
So let me
wonder if that's what, people...
Yeah, go ahead. So tell me what a genotype is.
So I'm assuming, I know it has to do with your genes. Mm-hmm. So your DNA, is it your DNA makeup? Like your unique DNA makeup? Is that a genotype?
Well, I'll read it here in a minute, but so that's what you kind of get the impression for genotype.
Yeah.
And then what do you think for phenotype?
So I know phenotypes, or I think I know, is like the different traits within those genes, like that make up the little nuanced differences. Like, whether it be hair color, eye color, things like that. So
you're pretty close to phenotype. You actually read the back half. It sounds like you read the paper I have, because that's the two they use.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I swear I didn't.
So we'll yeah.
I'm just
genotype's a little more than that.
See, that one I don't know. That one's more fuzzy.
Yeah. Phenotype you got right.
That one I thought I knew.
Yeah. So yeah, well, let's go. So the terms genotype and phenotype may sound similar, but they have huge differences between these two. The genotype is a set of genes in the DNA that are responsible for unique traits or characteristics, while phenotypes are the physical appearance or characteristics of an organism.
Okay.
So genotype is directly DNA related. Phenotype is not.
Okay.
You can have the same DNA and have different representations of a phenotype. And I'll give examples of animals with both.
Okay.
So I'm going to read the definition of genotype directly.
Okay.
the genotype, the human genetic, so this one's specifically for humans, but the human genetic code could be found by your genotype. It determines the traits in which will be expressed. Organisms that look the same do not have the same genotype. Genotype can be determined by biological test.
Okay.
So it's like so I'll give you an example.
Yep, I need it.
People that confuse green sunfish and bluegill. They're all sunfish.
Mm-hmm.
They physically look very similar.
Correct.
Genetically, they're vastly different.
Okay.
Or look at worms. That's a harder one for people to see. Like the variety of DNA in worms is crazy.
So you're basically looking at the DNA makeup of that individual.
Yes, we're not looking at anything physical with genotype.
It's all DNA.
Yep.
Okay.
This is where we find our subspecies in our different species that may look very similar on the outside, but are dramatically different on the inside.
It's almost like metaphysically they're different on the inside.
Genetically.
I know.
Jay's hooked on the metaphysical word today.
I just think it's funny, like, I kind of know what that means. I think people do, but it can always be used in almost any situation.
Just plug it.
And then, oh yeah, there we go.
It's a 21st century word.
Yeah, it fills the gaps.
So genotype is what we're going to use later on for discussing whether an animal is a subspecies, a different species, or maybe physically different. So let's get to phenotype. Mm-hmm. So phenotype, like discussed earlier, when both genotypes and phenotypes sound similar but are dramatically different. The phenotype is determined by the individual's genotype and expressed genes or the visibility of certain traits. For instance, hair color, eye color, body shape, height is all dependent on your genotype, but also influences by the factors in the environment. So phenotype is your physical traits in a species.
Okay.
So let's talk about the major differences, and I have a whole list. So before we move on to that, genotype is your genetic
makeup.
Code.
Yes.
Compared to other genetic codes.
Okay.
So me and you have the same genotype. We look vastly different.
Right.
We have the same genetic code.
Right.
We're the same genotype. Phenotype is why we look different. Mm-hmm. We're the same species with very vastly different traits.
Yeah.
So and that counts for all humans. So if you have, a black man, a white man, and a Chinese man, they're the same, technically the same genotype.
Mm-hmm. But that phenotype is
very different phenotypes. Physically, on the outside, we look very different. Genetically, we're very, very similar.
Only differences are only skin deep.
That's the point, is that those are phenotypes. That's just, and I'll go into whole species about this later. With it. They don't look like the same species.
Right.
Their phenotypes are dramatically different.
But they're the same.
They're the
genome.
They're the same animals.
Yeah.
Produced by the same mom and dad. And they produce two different sets of offspring
Gotcha.
At the same time.
Oh, okay.
And it's neat. But yeah, genotype's hereditary. Phenotype can be hereditary, but it also can be environmentally impacted.
Okay.
And we'll get into that one. So your genotype cannot be environmentally impacted. Phenotype can be. Mm-hmm. Genotype, same genotypes produce the same phenotypes. And then phenotypes, same phenotypes may or may not produce the same gene or belong to the same genotypes.
Okay. Slow that one down
so
again.
let's break that down.
Yeah.
The same genotype will always produce the same phenotypes.
Okay.
But
understood. But
the same, or just because phenotypes are the same, doesn't mean you can come from the same genotype. And we talked about it with sunfish earlier.
Right.
They look very similar on the outside,
but
they're different genotypes.
Mm-hmm. You almost have to start with the genotype, and then the phenotypes branch off of that individual genome.
Old biology used to classify animals by phenotypes. Mm-hmm. And after we started doing genetics discoveries, we realized how wrong that system was.
Right, yeah.
How similar some animals can look to other animals, and they're not
even
related at all.
Right, yeah. Which is nuts to think about, ain't it?
Mm-hmm. And it's convergent evolution. That's, these animals fit the same niche, so they look similar.
The best example for that, everything turns to
a crab. Crabs have separately evolved like 13 times, and there's only one true lineage of crabs.
Ain't that nuts?
So that's what that's talking about. Mm-hmm. Is it just because they look the same doesn't mean they have the same genetic code.
Right.
But if they have the same genetic code, they will look roughly the same. And like we're talking about, me and you look roughly the same.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for genotype, present inside the body as genetic material.
Okay.
Phenotype, expression of genes and external appearance. If I could read. External appearance. So, me having a lot of hair, you being bald, you having a full beard, me not. Those are phenotypes.
Yes.
But that's our express phenotypes. Genetically, we're still the same.
Right, exactly.
Are we keeping track so far? You're my baseline.
I'm keeping up.
Okay.
It's making sense to me. It's becoming more clear, that's for sure. Because like you said, they do use these words often.
And they don't mean the same thing.
Not at
all. They
all.
use them interchangeably.
Yeah.
And so I want to educate everybody at home. I know this is, I'll get to Bigfoot and I'll get to Dogman, I promise. But I want you at home to look at this and be able to be an educated person when you hear stuff on TV and you hear stuff in the news and for these specific things. So you can make your own decision. If somebody is not willing to do the research before they talk about this stuff and they just start throwing these words in, take that into account.
Consideration, correct.
If they're just throwing these big words in, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there are people that do this and they don't know what they mean, and it really hurts our community. It really makes us, from the Bigfoot community to the scientific community, it makes us look dumb.
Yes.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason mainstream science doesn't really get behind us, because some of these people really try to use mainstream science words
and
without the backing.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
And it makes you look dumb. It does. It's Will Ferrell has a sketch, and he's like, stupid people always just shove in big words, and they really don't know what they mean. And he's like, that lady's being such a photosynthesis.
Yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah,
and it's like,
example. Yes, exact example.
So back to the differences.
Okay.
Genotypes. The genotype is inherited from the parents to the offspring. So you get your genotype from your parent.
Mom and dad,
Yeah.
yep.
Phenotype is not always inherited from the parents. Like we said, it can be environmentally affected. It can be genetic just diversity. So you can have multiple phenotypes pop up.
And phenotypes can skip generations.
Yes.
Like that can be,
You can have random pop-ups.
Exactly.
Like the big one is like blonde hair popping up, and neither parent's blonde, but grandpa was blonde.
Or red hair even
Red
more
hair.
so, yeah.
Yeah. So just because mom and dad aren't expressing those traits doesn't mean they're not carrying those traits.
They're in there. They're dormant. Or like my mom's dad, bald, and here I am, bald.
Yeah, so you get that from your mom's dad. Grandpa had a full set of hair.
Oh, trust, I know. I have his exact haircut right now. Or not haircut, hair growth pattern that he had at 670. It's me right now at 20 or 30 something.
So maybe laugh. So genotype, like I've said, is affected directly by your genes. Your genotype is your genes.
Right.
Your phenotype is affected by your genotype and also environmental conditions, nutrient intake, and all this other stuff.
Can you develop new phenotypes then?
Yeah, so why that would be like your hair color changing over time.
Yeah.
You can change your eye color over time. All this stuff. So yeah, you can physically, your environment can change. You can change. You being heavy, I'm heavy because of the way I eat. I can change that, and that's changing my phenotype. That's my body type. I'm changing it. So genotypes. So I'm going to give you examples for this last little bit. Genotypes examples are blood groups, eye colors, height, genetic diseases. Phenotypes, weight, physiology, and then, for example, beaks of birds.
Yeah, like the what is it, the finches or whatever?
So that's different things within the same species. So yeah, so I'm going to give you an example of both. Or do you have any questions about that?
What you said, eye color is genotype?
Yeah, so you can't just develop a new eye color.
Gotcha. So that's passed down, but there's different phenotypes
of eye color.
Of eye colors. Yes. Okay. So
yes.
you can't just pop down and have neon yellow eyes.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Without a problem in your genes.
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah,
you're either going to have one of the main colors that's passed down. Okay.
So I'm going to give you animal groups or examples of both. So like we already said with phenotypes, so let me go with genotypes.
Yeah.
Where we have two animals that look very similar. So we're going to do a bluegill and a red-eared sunfish.
So get on your Googles.
Yep, and look at them. They look extremely similar. And they're kind of close cousins. And they're close enough where they can crossbreed. Not all can do this.
Right.
So you have some primates that look very similar that aren't close enough related to produce hybrids. So that's a genotype. They're genetically unique, even though physically they look very, very similar. And some people for a long time thought they were the same species.
I even think when you had one in your tank, I said, "Oh, look at that bluegill."
And I'm
You
like,
said-
that's a green sunfish.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh,
There is a bluegill in there, though.
there is.
So phenotypes. So this is an animal that's genetically the same. So we're going to talk about another sunfish. I'm using sunfish today a lot. We're going to talk about northern sunfish.
Okay.
They do this really cool kind of thing where, depending on what body of water they're in, mom and dad will produce the large variety and the small variety of offspring. So some of the adult males are only like 2 to 3 inches long, and some of the adult males are like 5 to 6 inches long.
And they're both adults.
And they're both adult males, same age, same group of animals.
Same, probably brother and sister.
Yeah, they're brothers.
Yeah.
But phenotype, they're very different.
One's big, one's small.
And the reason is so they can take full advantage of their environment. One guy can go and sit in the middle of the creek or the river and fight for those areas. One guy can go in the shallow and fight for those areas. It's to spread out their genetics through phenotype differences.
Gotcha.
So mom, dad produce different levels of those offspring depending on what environment. If they're mostly in shallow water, they're going to produce mostly the small offspring with a couple of the big guys. If they're mostly in big water, they're going to do the opposite, mostly big with a couple small.
Yeah, that makes sense. But that's one thing I never really thought about, being size, just size alone being a phenotype, just to fit an environment.
Now, here's a bigger one for phenotype. Jaguars.
Ooh.
Jaguars, they have almost a 1 in 2 chance of producing a melanistic cub.
Melanistic being like all black. Okay.
And the reason is that why they have this genetic why they have this phenotype is so half the population can hunt during the day, half the population can hunt during the night. So to split up the population so they're not co-competing
Against each other, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
We have a lot of phenotypes that are built in for that. There's all kinds of stuff with this phenotype stuff.
Yeah.
So phenotypes are not genetic. They are partially genetic. But phenotypes are variations in one species.
Yes. Within that specific genome type.
Yes.
Genotype, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So phenotypes are within that gene group. But
Yes.
they're also impacted by environmental concerns or environmental factors and the individual animal's factors.
It's combo, kind of, in most situations.
Genotype is always just the genetic attributes.
The genetic makeup of that specific animal, is that you say?
Yes,
Or creature?
the specific species.
Species? Oops.
And that's how we decide subspecies. If their genotypes are similar enough, we're going to call them a subspecies. That means it's a term basically to say they're not fully separate yet. So what that means is they could turn back around and merge back into the parent species with little to no trouble.
Gotcha.
But they're genetically distinct enough we can tell them apart.
Gotcha.
And then a full species is that they would have trouble merging back in to the parent species.
Okay.
Not impossible.
Not impossible, but
They'd
not
have
likely.
trouble.
Yes.
So phenotypes are more used for animals to take different advantage of different environments within the same species. Genetically the same thing.
Makes sense. I think I can follow that.
Hopefully everybody at home can. I know
Yes.
everybody likes the science lessons. That's at the top because I use phenotype, genotype a lot when we talk, and I realize I've never really
Explained it.
what they mean.
Yeah. I mean, anyone can Google, but like I said at the top of the show, I kind of just assume I know what it meant. You know, because you hear it enough.
I've seen a lot of people on TV that assume they know what it means.
Yeah. And you hear it enough, you know kind of what they're talking about. It makes sense, but you never really break it down and, okay, what exactly does this mean for sure? So this is very helpful.
So tell me, what is a genotype?
It's the individual species genetic makeup that applies only to that species. If it's different, it's a different genotype for a different species.
There we go. Phenotype.
It is your individual characteristics of that species that can be changed or that can pop up in different variations. Basically, different variations of that genotype that can be passed down and changed and be dormant and just exist within that genotype.
Can different genotypes have the same phenotype?
Yes.
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 Perfect. Okay. I think you got a pretty good understanding of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so hopefully everybody at home followed. Jay's kind of my muse for that.
I'm the everyday man that
my baseline.
I'm like you guys listening.
Well, I come from the background that uses this stuff, so it's hard for me to get a gauge.
And see, I don't, and I think most people listening don't,
Right. I mean, 90% of people don't.
but they're like me and they just love all this stuff. They love nature and
I want
animals.
people to know. I want people to be able to make up their own minds when they listen to somebody on TV or they listen to somebody on YouTube. And you start. I hate that with the UFO community, the cryptid community. They use, and even some of the other paranormal communities, they use these big words and they don't have a grasp of them.
I know, they're talking about metaphysical genome splicing.
Metaphysical genome splicing. The name of this episode. All right. So you guys know that now. Now, like I promised, we're going to talk about Bigfoot and Dogman.
Oh, okay. So this is where... So, okay, like we just went through a whole really scientific explanation, and we're going to apply this to Bigfoot and Dogman now, so buckle
So normally you do the honey and the hatchet. I did the hatchet first.
Right, yeah.
So first we're going to talk about this big packet I got, but it's Bigfoot subspecies or Bigfoot variations in North America. We're going to talk about the 4 to 6 types that may exist in North America.
Okay.
But first, this article, it's from Bigfoot 411. They did a really cool article. That's what I'm using. But they did some really cool math for numbers of gorillas / bears and applying that to Bigfoot. So I'm going to read that first before we get into it.
Okay.
And this is in their just for fun section. The author, he didn't have his name on this, but he did this just to kind of, he really thought it out. So I just wanted to read it because it was cool to me. How many Bigfoot are there? He says, unknown, but maybe 4,169.
I'm sorry, just a random number.
Well, there's a reason. He has a math formula. That's just the number his formula kicked out. Exactly. So that's kind of the joke.
Yeah. I was just like how he literally, not like approximately, nope.
It's just, well, he said maybe. Guesses range from anywhere from as low as 700 individuals to a whopping 100,000. The BFRO estimates 2,000 to 6,000 individuals. There is a good argument for as many as 10K that amount. So, 60,000 individuals.
Yes.
That sounds a lot, right? But we'd be swimming with Bigfoot if there were that many. But would we?
No.
That's what he's arguing against it.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm a confident believer with that 15 to 20,000 number.
Yeah, I think we talked about that.
Yeah, we've done that before. And I can believe up to 25,000. I think that's a pretty healthy population for an apex migratory predator. 25,000 is a pretty fair number for them, I feel.
Okay.
15 is probably the lower end of a sustainable population for how big the range is. If there was 700 of them, they'd all be dead.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
They'd all be dead. So here's some facts he's going to give us. Mountain gorillas, their average home range is 8 square miles.
Okay.
Neanderthals, we believe their average home range was 20 square miles.
Okay.
Grizzly bears, their average home range is 160 square miles.
It's a lot bigger.
Yeah. So hypothetically, a troop of 4 Bigfoot need a home range probably comparable to that of a grizzly bear. Turning the page.
So 100 plus
160-ish square miles. The U.S. The U.S. has 2.3 million square miles of undeveloped mountain and forest land. That would have enough for land for 14,375 troops. That's 57,500 Bigfoots. With that rough estimate he's given out, so there's that much room of untouched wilderness
for them,
continental U.S.
for them to live in, basically. Yeah. Okay.
And then but yeah, so that's just kind of his little thing he did. So I thought it was cool. He took the time and kind of figured it up.
Crunch those
and
numbers.
He has a map on his website to show you how big that square mile is and just how much they fit in Ohio.
Oh,
little undeveloped area.
Really?
And it's kind of crazy how much you don't realize.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yep. So Bigfoot types, North America variations. Nobody knows how many Bigfoot there are, but there are more than one for sure. There are enough Bigfoot living in North America to have different types being reported. The reports differ from each other with consistencies across eyewitnesses. So there's a couple different types that people are seeing.
Okay.
Some of it seems to be regional, some of it's not. So type 1 Bigfoot. Okay. Turning pages. Type 1 Bigfoot, a.k.a. the Patty type. This is your classic Sasquatch. It looks like a cross between a human and a lowland mountain gorilla. It is a large, powerful, built, thick, broad chest, black hair, and gray skin, gray to blue skin. Other hair colors are common, such as brown, auburn, cinnamon, and occasionally white. The head, though, is massive, but has been described as relatively small for the body. Type 1s sometimes develop a sagittal crest, which looks like a person wearing a hoodie. This is consistent brow ridge with a receding forehead. Given that the eyes are deep set look, the eyes are hard to see, but have been reported to be prominently further apart than that of a human's eyes.
Okay.
Type 1s have a flat face with a prominent cheekbones and a square jaw. The mouth region is only slightly protruded. The nose is near the human in shape, although pug or flattened, sometimes with forward-directing nostrils. The height averages sample of this population is between 7 foot 10 inches. However, the alphas, males that we think have been reported as large as 9 feet of this type. The average type 1 is estimated weight of 5 to 800 pounds. This is your very classic Bigfoot.
Yeah, basically. When you think of Bigfoot, this is the guy.
A slight sagittal crest, a little bit of the bump on the head.
Like cone-shaped.
Yeah.
People report, yeah.
So what do you think?
Sounds reasonable. I mean, it just sounds normal. Like what you would expect when you describe it as Sasquatch, like Patty.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm just thinking of Patty when you describe all this.
All right.
That's what image is in my head.
You want to read type 2?
Sure. I'll do type 2. All right. This whole one is? Mm-hmm. Okay. Type 2s seem more ape-like than type 1s. They're reported in many areas of North America, but especially in the South. Type 2s have a bestial, man-like build and large eyes with a large pupil dilation for night vision. The hair is most often reported as black, but auburn, orange, and cinnamon have been reported, which would be different phenotypes, right?
Keep going.
Okay.
We'll talk about that at the end.
Okay. A bit smaller than the type 1s. The average height is around 7 foot. Type 2s tend to be very territorial and very aggressive. They seem to kill a lot of livestock, especially smaller varieties such as goats and chickens. Type 2s leave human-like footprints, but can seem very much like known primates, especially chimps, orangutans, and billy apes.
Yeah, billy apes. Well, maybe we can talk about billy apes later.
Okay. And I think, the rest is, yep.
Yep, so
that makes me think of skunk ape.
So I have skunk ape later, but yes, these are your skunk apes that aren't skunk apes.
What do you mean?
Skunk apes are just Florida, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
So these are your other southern swamp Sasquatch.
Okay.
Where they have the prominent thumb toe. The big toe is more like a thumb than a toe. Unlike most other Sasquatch, you don't really see that in their cast, but specifically with southern fried Bigfoots, they have that.
I think that's what we called it.
That's what we called our episode.
Southern fried Sasquatch.
Southern fried Sasquatch.
What if, though, because I know we talked about this before, what if maybe those ones walk on all fours more often?
And that could be a thing.
And that thumb thing really is their thumb and their hands. Maybe their hands just are shaped in a way to
And that'd
crawl.
be more orangutan-like with long hands.
Yeah.
I don't think they're Bigfoot. I think they're something else. But we can get into that later.
Okay. You mean a different genotype?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a whole different genotype. Not cousins.
Right.
I think we introduced whatever the skunk ape is.
Oh, okay.
And we'll talk about specifically billy apes later. But yeah, so these are your classic skunk ape kind of things that aren't in Florida. Pretty much the only difference is skunk apes are in Florida.
Florida, yeah. They earn that moniker there.
So yeah, what do you think about that?
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Maybe not too much extra there.
Type 3.
Ooh, okay.
This is a big one. So type 3 is something like a mandrill-human mix. Everybody know what a mandrill is?
I don't know if I do.
It's what people call a baboon. It's not a baboon. It's a mandrill. The colored faces and the
big red butts?
Yeah.
That's a mandrill?
Yeah. Baboons are pretty much just straight brown.
Oh, okay.
Mandrills are the pretty ones.
Okay.
They look very similar to a Bigfoot, but are more savage or primal in nature. Descriptions of the face vary, but most reports describe them as large/dog/bear/baboon-faced mammals. So you have the more of the snout.
Yeah.
The Bigfoot-like in more of the snout, and that comes back into effect later when we talk about Dogman.
Okay.
That's why I include Dogman. There's a lot of similarities with some of these types.
You mean a lot of similar phenotypes?
Yes. You feel very smart now, don't you?
I sure do. I'm an educated man now.
So type 3s can be extremely tall. These are your 10 to 15 footers. Most of your giant-sized Sasquatch have these snouts, and it's just crazy. With oversized heads that look more like a monster-like thing than an ape-like thing. They tend to live up in the mountains, but will come down for food. Their fur is typically dark black or dark brown. One witness reported seeing a Type 3 wearing animal pelts over its fur. They may eat humans, but reports of man-eaters are rare and often based on very old legends. Type 3 tend to incite reports of paranormal characteristics, like having glowing red eyes or being bulletproof at close range. Check out this episode of Dogman Encounters, episode 85.
I'm laughing. I want that phenotype. I want to be bulletproof at close range.
Well, yeah. So an eyewitness ex-military goes looking for a bipedal canid, but finds a Type 3, and it's a very cool encounter, and that's in the Dogman Encounters, episode 85. So definitely go listen to that. It's a podcast.
Dogman Encounters? Is the name of the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Gotcha.
Maybe we'll get a hold of them.
Oh, yeah.
Type 3 is recently classified. Traditionally, these types were called kawis or gawas, a kind of man-eating ogre from Mawakan Indian folklore. Mawakan.
Oh. Okay.
And we're going to talk, the gawas come back later.
That's kind of that man-eating ogre.
Mm-hmm. They are very bestial. These are more dog-man-like things.
Okay.
But we're going to talk about crossover later.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think some things that people are calling Bigfoot are not Bigfoot, and some things that people are calling Dogman are not Dogman.
Okay, there's still some more out there.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah. Crossover.
Yes.
All right. So any comments about these giant, Type 3s, the giant man-eating ogres?
Yeah. So far, I mean, no, I understand all the three differences so far.
Type 3s are not very human-like at all.
And not something you want to...
Very bestial, primal, but human-like things like the wearing of pelts, they seem to not be dumb things.
You're right.
They're intelligent, but not our classic Bigfoot. When you think of a Bigfoot, this is not what you think of.
Right. No, not at all. These are the scary monsters. Like when you think
the Type 3s are the things that go bump in the night. Yeah, they're not something you want to come in contact with.
Insert spooky sound effect. We don't have a button. We just do it ourselves.
What's the guy from Police Academy?
Oh, is it Michael Winslow?
That's the actor.
Yeah.
But what's his name in there?
I don't remember.
Helicopter or something like that?
I should know this.
Anyways, so Type 4 Bigfoots. Type 4 reports often come from north to northeast U.S. They have been referred to as early man Bigfoots or the American Almas. So that's the Russian Bigfoot. These are the most human-looking. They basically look like humans that are covered in fur. Prehistoric man-like things. They're typically a bit leaner than our Type 1s, but are still large and well-musculared. These are hairy Homo, I'm not even going to say this name, but it's Homo heidelbergensis.
That was perfect.
Yes. Is a distinct model of the Type 4s. So that's a prehistoric human-like thing, or a human, that they think fits the mold of these type of Bigfoots perfectly.
Gotcha. Ooh.
They have less facial hair than the other types. The crown on top of their head can be they can have with very thin hair and almost a bald appearance on top. Some eyewitnesses have reported beards and mustaches ranging from notable full-grown animals. Type 4s have a round, not conical head. They have a human-like head. So that sagittal crest is almost gone. Their noses are hooded. Their mouth is wide or wider than what we would see when you turn the page. Consistent with normal. Their teeth are square and very human-like. Square and human-like.
Yeah.
Who's its sighting had its square human-like teeth?
Who is?
Whose sighting that we know?
Oh, gosh, you put me on the spot.
Greg.
Oh, it's right. Yeah, he did talk about that.
The skin color is pasty gray or black with a leathery appearance. Some people think that they are hybrids, part human or part novel primate. They may be, but all members of the genus Homus developed and used tools. There are no reports of Type 4s using tools of any kind yet. And if they are humans, even pre-modern humans, why would they stop creating and using tools? And they talk about that, and I don't think they stopped using tools, in my personal opinion.
Okay. Why would they?
I don't think they use fire because they don't need it and it causes attention.
I mean, anything that would if use tools wouldn't stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what do you think about this type? This is our Eastern Bigfoot. This is what we have. This is what I've seen. This is what Greg's seen.
Okay.
They have the human head. So that's the big thing. Right now, type 1s are your Pacific Northwest Bigfoot.
With the big coning heads. And...
Type 2s are your Southern Fried Sasquatch. Mm-hmm. Type 3s are your Eastern, Appalachian, you Midwest, New York Bigfoots.
You mean type 4?
Type 4, what'd I say?
Type 3.
Oh, no, type 3 is the monster.
Yeah, the monster. Type 4 is the...
Type 4 is the eastern side of the U.S. is Bigfoot. Gotcha. Your classic round head. Your much more human-like appearance. Like the thing I seen, I didn't get, I was pretty much a shadow I seen, but I didn't have that big conical head. And that was not thin by any means of the definition.
It's hulking.
Yeah, but it was not your giant sagittal crest like Patty.
It kind of reminds me of this... there's this picture of this Russian swimmer from like a polo team back in, I forget, early this century. But there's a photo of him like later in life. And there's not many photos. I don't think there's any video of him playing. It's like 40 or something. But he's holding like, just a normal photo of him with his family, like his grandkids sitting on his lap.
Yeah. Yes, I've seen that. That's on the Bigfoot pages.
Huge.
Yeah.
He looks like this, but just not as hairy. He's hairy, but not like...
Not fully.
Not Bigfoot hairy. But he's like got that shape.
He's giant. His head's tiny.
That's tiny, and his body's giant.
So that's the 4 classic types of Sasquatch, or what we think of the 4 classic types of Sasquatch. I have some smaller ones we're going to go into now.
Okay.
But before we do that, so I think your type 1s and your type 4s are different phenotypes.
Ooh.
But the same genotype.
Genotype, yes.
They're different environments. They live completely different environments. But I think if you brought a type 1 and a type 4 together, they could produce viable offspring. Mm-hmm. Your type 3s are something completely different. Mm-hmm. That's not Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And your type 2s, I think, are not Bigfoot either.
Hot take.
Mm-hmm. I think they're... So like we talked about Billy apes. So we talked about it in our skunk ape episode. So let's go listen to that if you really want to get the full thing in that.
Southern Fried Sasquatch.
Southern Fried Sasquatch. Captains used to get all kinds of weird primates and take on their ships over to North America for entertainment from Africa. And a couple captains had these things they used to call silverback chimpanzees. And they knew what a silverback gorilla was. They knew what a chimpanzee was. They said these were the hybrids. They don't hybridize. They were actually taking a new species. Some people think it's the, what's the horrible chimpanzee? Joe Rogan always talks about them.
I know what you're talking about. I just don't know the name. The ones
bonobos.
Bonobos. They'll like rip your face off.
So some people, bonobos are terrifying.
Yeah.
But some people thought they were bonobos. I don't think they were. I think they were a separate species of large primate that may be extinct in Africa now. But they're holding a good population here in the southern U.S.
Yeah.
Because the southern U.S. is the home of hundreds, if not thousands, of crazy exotic invasives.
Ooh.
So it's a good place. And some people even think orangutans or subspecies of orangutan may have taken hold. So the footprint morphology difference is crazy. When you look at these guys' foots, they're not Bigfoot.
Okay.
That's a very, very big thing for it to be a phenotype difference.
Okay.
For it to have a thumb on its toe.
Right.
For a toe.
Yeah.
A hand foot.
As compared to like the human like footprints.
Yeah. We're not seeing, and there's a big difference in Bigfoot from North America or from the Pacific Northwest to the U.S. with their foot.
Right.
But they don't have a thumb
on the side. Toe. Yeah.
So I think your southern guys are those things. They're some kind of invasive, undiscovered primate. And they may not even be a primate known, like I said, to science. They may have gone extinct in Africa due to this trade. And then the ones that were here were enough in numbers. And it may be several species. There could be orangutans in Florida.
Yeah.
And I really think, we talked about the skunk ape episode, I really think she may have seen a giant orangutan.
Yeah, I think we did.
That's what we kind of came to
it, yeah.
Just because the cheek flaps.
That, or that other one you said, the one that was up in the tree, the ones that, it's another type of monkey, I guess, or whatever it was, I forget.
Gibbons,
yeah, big gibbon, like a different gibbon, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I think your type 3s are just something completely else. And we're going to talk about Dogman later. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
You're always hinting and nudging.
So you ready for the smaller types, or do you have anything else to say about type 1 through 4?
No, I think it's all making sense. Like, I like how we can kind of break it down into different... We're breaking it down based on genotype. And again, no one's a Bigfoot expert. This is all speculative.
Everything we've just said is speculation.
Correct. But it's fun.
Yep.
It's fun to learn this.
So the Genowaska.
Okay.
This is a type of Bigfoot from North American legend. These are referred by North Americans as the Rockmen. It's reported that these are Bigfoot's larger, more bulkier cousin with skin as hard as rocks, and they twist the heads off their victims until they're completely decapitated.
Oh my gosh.
These are the Bigfoot that the Native Americans were terrified of.
Oh, you think?
And these weren't your average Bigfoot. They talked these tribes that specifically with this type, the Genowaska, something like, I can't say it. It's got a lot of G's and W's in it.
Yeah.
And a K in the middle.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
These are the type that they would see come into an area and another Bigfoot would leave.
Okay.
And these could be your type 3s, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
These are the hulking monsters with bulletproof skin.
Yeah.
These are the things that you could not win a fight with.
And there's, I've seen the Native American paintings and stuff. They've drawn these things before.
Yeah.
With a rock hard skin. Mm-hmm.
So that's what these things are. These are more troll or orc or monster like.
Yeah. It makes you wonder too. Like,
and we're going to do an episode eventually on the Decapitation Valley in Canada.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. The Valley of Headless Men or something.
The Valley of Headless Men.
Yeah.
That has everything from mammoths to dinosaurs to wild men in it.
That's craziness.
That's a prehistoric area. So now we're going to talk about the skunk ape specifically.
Okay.
So skunk ape is a large, hairy, bipedal mammal that calls the Everglades its home. Casting of their tracks confirm that they have 4 toes and a thumb on their feet. Mm-hmm. Male skunk apes can stand up to 7 foot tall and weigh more than 350 pounds. So that's very light for that height.
Yeah, it is.
Females are consistently smaller, standing 5 to 6 feet tall and weighing 180 to 250 pounds. So we're seeing really consistent gorilla and large bonobo weights.
Okay.
Not heights.
Yeah.
And what do we know about heights with monster sightings?
They always are bigger than... They're is reported as bigger.
Yeah, they're always reported bigger than they are actually seen.
Yeah.
And that's because they're terrifying, and your brain makes them scarier.
And bigger, yeah. What could be a 6 foot thing looks all of a sudden 10 foot when it's hairy and...
So,
I don't know.
A bonobo can stand 6 foot tall if it were to stand
up
like a man.
Yeah.
Both males and females are often seen covered in red or black fur, depending on where you're at. So we see orangutan or bonobo. And it could be both or something else. A whole different thing in the Everglades.
Yeah, all in the Everglade.
Most confirmed skunk ape sightings, however, report individual animals. Increased sightings, though, right now report claims of having seen several skunk apes traveling together. This is a new type or new thing for the phenomena. These groups are also known as troops, are becoming more and more common in recent years. It's almost like their population is finally starting to grow and take hold.
Or their environment's shrinking a little bit, maybe?
I think it's
the former?
Yeah. They're finally starting to get big enough populations where they're starting to be seen in groups. There are monkeys right now in Florida that are invasive.
Oh, okay.
That have taken hold. People don't realize that. People are seeing monkeys, and like the DNR in some areas, like, no, there's no monkeys. And the DNR in other counties are like, yeah, we have a colony of monkeys.
Yeah. Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So primates invading Florida has happened in recent times. I think they're not spider monkeys. They're capuchin monkeys are getting to be a problem.
Okay.
Because they can carry human disease and they'll run up and bite you.
Ooh.
So that's why they don't like them.
Yeah, I would agree.
So skunk ape sightings are reported throughout Florida. It's estimated that there's between 7 and 9 skunk apes that live in the Everglades. I don't know where they get that number. These sightings suggest that the high concentration inhabit the Florida Everglades. Big Cypress Natural Preserve offers the best opportunity for researchers to locate a skunk ape. Oftentimes, skunk ape sightings are close in proximity to large cities. One instance, the skunk apes reportedly ran on I-75 at broad daylight. That's our same I-75.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know.
But yeah. So what do you think? Those are our kind of 6 types of Sasquatch.
Okay. I wonder why. I mean, I never thought like the skunk ape would have its own little separate thing.
After looking into them more and more, they are not Bigfoot, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And type 2s may be Bigfoot, but whatever the skunk ape is not Bigfoot.
You think that skunk ape could be a type 2?
I don't think so. Well, yeah, I do think so, but I don't think if the skunk ape is a type 2, then type 2 is not Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, correct. So if the skunk ape is type 2, then the genome, or the
genome is different.
The genotype, yeah.
Yes, is different.
Yes, okay.
But the phenotype may have some similarities. They're similar phenotypes.
Yeah. Like sunfish and bluegill.
Mm-hmm. Man, you're going to be an expert at this.
I already am.
Are you ready to do talks next year on eDNA and genotypes and phenotypes?
You don't want me doing that. I would be curious to see what I come up with.
I think you'd still, right now, you have a better understanding than a lot of people in those rooms. I'm not joking.
Let's take it easy here. I know nothing.
So yeah, we're not.
I don't want.
You made me laugh.
I just don't want anyone to approach me at any of these things because I will just crap down my leg when they ask me anything serious.
Yeah, that's a Justin question.
I already do that.
But I say that at the conferences. I'm like, that's a J topic.
Do you know that I do that too?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I do that all the time.
I send people your way because I'm like, that's not something for me.
Right.
Because they're asking you about how the pyramid, I don't know, just weird stuff. And
I'm all on that.
That's not a Justin question. That's a J question. And we have a very distinct dynamic.
Yep.
That's a J thing.
But it all meshes.
It does. No, it does. I'm not saying anything. It just... there are J questions and there are Justin questions.
They're all connected. We're going to figure out the secrets of the world.
It's all mushrooms. It's starting
Don't spoil it. That's for season 8.
It's starting to leach in.
Season 8 stuff here. You're like me now, jumping ahead.
Mushrooms.
You're going to be your backyard one day. I'm just huddled over it, talking to him.
I was talking to it. Emily asked who I was talking to the other day. It's that mushroom.
Bob's brother.
All right. So there are, Sasquatch all around the world. Like we said, Alnas, Orangutanpedex, Yeti. Mm-hmm. And are these different species or are they subspecies? So there are red foxes in Europe and North America. So we do have species that span continents that have different phenotypes, but genetically are the same. If you took a red fox from North America and a red fox from Europe, they could make viable offspring. They're still the same species, roughly.
So the genotype's still similar, or it's the same?
Yeah, roughly, basically the same.
Okay.
At that point, you're getting into maybe subspecies.
Yeah, they're close enough to be
viable offspring is produced.
Yes. Okay.
Without human assist.
And okay. Can only viable offspring be produced through things with extremely close genotypes?
Correct.
Okay.
You have to be, even if your phenotypes are very different. Mm-hmm. So like Sawguy are an Ohio-made monster. They're a hybrid between two fish species that do not reproduce naturally in the wild.
Okay.
So they do produce viable offspring in a lab.
Okay.
But that's just doesn't exist in the wild.
So if you release them, they're not going to start.
That's why they don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't take over. But yeah, so that's the Bigfoot side of it. So anything for the Bigfoot side of it?
I'd say still the same. Like it's good to break this stuff down.
So what do you think? Who do you think's a Bigfoot? Who do you think's not a Bigfoot? Are they all Bigfoot? Are they none of them Bigfoot?
Well, the type 3 is the one that is the odd outlier, I'd say, for sure, because that does kind of cover the monster aspect of some of this stuff. That's just the weird odd ones out. You get those stories where it's just literally a monster story. I also think of it just made me think, type 3 made me think of Shrek.
So I was about to say ogre.
Yeah.
Type 3s for that for Bigfoot 4 and 1 for their or how they categorize them. Your type 3s are your monsters, your ogres, your mountain trolls. Mm-hmm. They're often seen wearing animal carcasses or pelts. They're seen in high mountains,
Yeah.
That's not a Bigfoot, in my opinion. What do you think?
So I think it's
a monster.
I think it is a Bigfoot, but maybe not what we typically think of as being like the normal, what Bigfoot really is. It might just be another subspecies, like a dominant, like a very hyper-aggressive, very territorial, solo kind of Bigfoot.
So would that be a phenotype? So we have this thing that exists in nature where we consider alpha males. So alpha males will get larger, and they'll actually produce pheromones in some species that keep the other males smaller.
Oh, wow.
We've seen that in all kinds of animals. And right now we think sauropod dinosaurs, the big long-necked dinosaurs, they did that.
Oh, okay.
Because there'd be one male in this giant herd that was just super huge.
Yeah.
And he was the defender. And the other males were all smaller. They were female-sized.
Okay. So I'm kind of leaning into that more. Now that you said that, it makes more sense.
And they just get supersized. So the muzzle thing.
See, shoot. Yeah.
That could be a phenotype thing, or that could be an age thing. So we do see skulls change over time.
Okay.
Not really much in primates, if that's where we're putting Bigfoot, but who's to say?
Right, yeah, exactly.
That could be a thing of the alpha of the area gets the larger jaw, this more pronounced teeth ridge.
And this type is the type you don't normally see like around a family group. It's always just this one monster,
So I think of Goliath.
Yeah.
He's not seen very, and that's Tom Shays.
Giant.
Yeah, his giant. You don't see him. He's seen him once, and it was absolutely terrifying. He's seen other Bigfoot.
Yeah. That was enough to...
And I wonder if he did have that more pronounced face.
Yeah. And
well, look at orangutans. Look at an adult male orangutan, how different that animal looks to the rest of the species.
True, that, as opposed to like the
big giant cheek flaps, the dewlaps.
Yeah.
They don't look, they look similar, but they don't.
Correct. Even compared to like the young ones, the babies, they don't look like that.
The babies look like little kids.
Yeah. And then as they get older, they develop that almost fatter face, like flatter, fat face.
Yeah, it's cheek flaps.
It's
a specific ridge they have.
Okay, it just looks like they're all fat in the face.
I mean, it kind of is. I'm sure it's fatty deposits, but it's specifically designed.
That's the only way I can describe it.
So it could be something like that. I don't think so, but it's just it's an opinion.
Oh yeah, I'll throw anything out there that could be.
But I could see that. That's a biological thing you could explain that with.
What if they are, they're solitude, like dominant, creatures.
They control
alpha.
a whole area, and they may have several families or whatever in it.
And maybe what comes with that, you're more like territorial, animalistic, where you're surviving, controlling, and maybe your face does kind of morph into that. It fits that role of like a beast.
You can think of it as more supervisors. These may be animals that are done breeding.
Yeah.
We see this with like congreals. When they're done breeding, they get supersized.
Ooh. Yeah. What if that's? Ooh. Okay.
So when if you're looking at this primate, it may take full control over this area, and I mean a giant swath, and it may be the peacekeeper.
In ways, like in good ways and bad ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's how maybe all the other Sasquatch families that live in its gigantic territory. It may be the one that's like Tom's. He said, when the other Bigfoots would be talking to them, they'd hear the one roar on top of the mountain,
just done,
and everything stopped because they're like, "All right, that's enough."
Interesting. That would be kind of scary if we're kind of hitting the nail on the head here. Just hypothetically speaking, and Tom Shea, when he saw it, ooh.
We'll ask him. We're going to see him at Crypticon.
I can't wait.
If it had a muzzle. And he won't even know why.
We're just going to say it.
We got to get him on the show.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know if he does podcast ever. He's a nice guy. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure he wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't think he's ever done it.
Future plans.
So we're going to go into Dogman now.
Dogman.
And Dogman has a lot of varieties and a lot of overlap with Bigfoot.
Because we've discussed this before. Dogman is... We don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variances to Dogman.
And this is the 7 types of Dogman that everybody uses. It's a little flyer they give out.
Okay.
Like Dogman stuff.
All right, let's run through this real quick.
Type 1, it's really weird how they have this written. So we're going to go, so they have it as, it's just weird. We're going to go type 1.
Okay.
It's their categorization system is different because they have like type 3 variant 1, type 2 variant 2.
Gotcha.
I'm just going to go type 1, type 2, type 3.
Okay.
Type 1, the tall, lean, strong, with a baboon-like head and snout.
Okay.
So this is kind of reminiscent to our type 3s on the Bigfoot.
Side.
They're tall, they're lean, and they have that snout. And this is putting them as Dogman.
Okay.
Your type 2, the hominid body with the very chow-like head, So you have this big, wide head, exaggerated teeth, and chows don't,
Oh, I know chows.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Love chows.
So they have this giant, wide set head. So it's not a super long head.
Yeah.
But it's just super wide, like a chow or maybe even a bulldog.
Okay.
Your type 3s. This is a Sasquatch with a muzzle.
So like the type 3 Sasquatch.
Yeah. So they are very, very similar to Sasquatch, except they have a pronounced muzzle and tend to be more aggressive.
Okay.
Any questions so far?
Mm-mm.
Like I said, there's going to be a lot of overlap with Bigfoot.
And Dogman, which we already knew.
Type 4. It's like a standing timber wolf. So
Okay.
this is like some of the early sightings of the Michigan Dogman.
Is
Where
this?
it's like a wolf, a giant timber wolf that would just stand up. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like a man.
This is almost like the werewolf type, you think of, right?
Like this is more just like a big wolf that stood up.
Okay.
So like sometimes we get it reported with skinwalkers. They don't look like a person standing. It looks like a wolf that's standing and just walking. It's really weird.
Yeah. You think?
Type 5. These are your hyena-like dogmen.
Okay.
And what's weird is these get seen in Michigan a lot.
Really?
Yeah. And hyenas have been loose in Michigan a lot.
Are you hint, hint, wink, winking right now?
Yeah. And we'll come back to hyenas here in a minute. But yes, this is your hyena-like guy.
Okay.
Your type 6. Large, strong, broad-bodied, and pointed ears. This is your American werewolf. This is your werewolf-like thing.
Okay.
Your classic Beast of Bray Road. This is the hulking wolf man.
Defiance Dogman.
Yeah, the Defiance Dogman.
Episode.
And your type 7 are your soldiers. That's from, I think, what's the vampire werewolf movie?
Vampire werewolf movie?
Yeah, anyways, not.
Oh, okay, duh. Okay.
But they have extremely large, oversized heads. So once again, going to the type 3, back to Bigfoot. Where they said their heads don't look like they match their bodies, even though their bodies are gigantic. Their heads are always supersized.
So is this the last one too?
Yep.
So are you painting like a kind of a picture where...
There's a lot of overlap is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, similar...
It depends on which way you're coming from, if
Yeah.
it's a Bigfoot or if it's a Dogman.
Or even they could be, completely separate, but they share phenotypes.
So that is one thing, is they could be completely separate and they're sharing distinct phenotypes to fit the environment.
Yes, I was just going to say, which is a product of the environment, like bluegill and sunfish. They live in the same space, take up the same kind of niche.
But so for this categorization system, I don't think everything on here is a Dogman. I don't think everything on the Bigfoot categorization is a Bigfoot. I think there's a lot of stuff that are Bigfoot and Dogman, and there's a lot of stuff that aren't, and they just happen to get lumped in.
Because what else?
If you're a Dogman researcher and you're going to go in and it's a Bigfoot with a muzzle, it's a Dogman.
Yep.
If you're a Bigfoot researcher, it's a Bigfoot.
Correct.
So there's a lot of confirmation bias is what that's called. When you're going in with a bias and you're confirming everything based on that bias.
Which makes this whole field even more confusing when you try to explain that to just the regular person that kind of has a small interest, knows what this stuff is, but doesn't know like a lot about it. Trying to explain that to them is very difficult. So
you're on this list, on the Dogman list, your type 1 and your type 3 are almost identical to our type 3 Bigfoot on that list. They're the same thing. I don't know which way they're going, whether they're a Dogman or a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But they are the exact same thing. Even the pictures they use are almost the same to describe them. So they're the same. They're the same thing, in my opinion. I don't know which way it goes though.
I don't know
whether they're Dogman or Bigfoot. But the other ones though, that's the ones I really think we need to look at.
Yes. Yeah.
Whatever that thing is, that mountain troll thing.
Yeah.
Is something that could be connected to one of those two.
It could be completely
It could
separate.
be its own thing. It could be a real mountain troll.
And I'm thinking that's a very good possibility.
It could be a relic mountain troll or whatever we consider trolls.
Well, like Lord of the Rings and all that stuff, like that ancient world might have existed with, maybe not in the exactly how it was with trolls and orcs, but who's to say that stuff, what if it was here? What if that stuff really did happen? Not how that happened, but just those things existing and living, having communities, populations, and we had to deal with them, and now there's
just a few of them left.
Yeah, it's just a remnant. Or even like time slips, things like that come through. Ghosts, we talk about, spirits, like leftover, all that sort of stuff could play a factor if those things really did exist at one point in time.
I like it. I'm not arguing. There's nothing to argue there. It's all possibilities.
Everything. There's a potential for everything.
So I'm going to bring this back to the science side.
Yes.
So let's go with the Dogman list first because that's one we just did.
Okay.
Are these all the same thing with different phenotypes? So they all have the same genotype with different phenotypes, and they fit certain environments around the country. Are they a couple separate things? Specifically, the hyena one, I think it's just hyenas.
Okay.
Because like everywhere the hyena Dogman pops up, there's been a record of loose hyenas. So, like Michigan has had a lot of loose hyenas. Hyenas are scary.
What if they
don't mess with a hyena?
What if they think that hyena was just a hyena, but it was really a Dogman?
See, I think it's because you're not used to seeing a hyena in Michigan.
Yeah.
And it runs out in front of you, and you tell somebody you've seen a giant hyena.
True.
And you're in Dogman area.
It's Dogman.
So it's Dogman.
Okay. Makes sense.
Because they're seen in Texas, Arkansas, and Michigan is where the most hyena Dogmen are seen. And they've all had a big history of hyenas getting loose.
Okay. Correlation there.
Yeah. There's a lot of correlation for that. Hyena one, I just saying for this list, for my opinion,
just a hyena.
Throw it out.
Yep.
Because they're not normally ever seen walking up, right? They're kind of seen always hunched over. Have you ever seen a freaking hyena? They look like they're hunched over.
They do. They have that big lump on their back.
Yeah. It's all muscle. They're not something to mess with. People don't get how big a hyena is because you see them next to a giant lion.
Or you see them on Lion King and they're just goofy.
No. They have super strong bites.
Yeah. Okay.
They kill lions.
Avoid them.
Yeah. They're not nice animals. They're not dogs.
They taste good?
No. And remember, the females have male genitalia.
That is true.
Look that up.
Google it.
This is not a Patreon episode, so I won't go into it. So, are these phenotypes with the same genotype besides the hyena? Are these phenotypes with the same genotype, or are they different genotypes, or is there a couple genotypes in there? What do you think?
I think it's a mixed bag.
So who are you putting where?
Well, I think the more classical, like Dogman, werewolf things are. But see, then that's where you split hairs of whether it's supernatural or spiritual or an actual beast. Let's just say for this whole thing, they're all actual.
If they're flesh
creatures.
and blood.
Yes. I'd say all the ones that kind of have that upright, kind of man-like shaped body with the dog head, but, are all similar, but they're all the same genotype with different phenotypes.
Are you putting the two that are Bigfoot-like baboon-headed ones in there too?
Ooh. My gut tells me probably no. Maybe those are their own separate.
Are you putting those with Bigfoot then? Or are you putting them as their own thing? And I could think we could be losing cryptids inside of other cryptids.
Yeah, very well could be. I don't put him over towards the Bigfoot thing.
I don't think they're Bigfoot. I don't think they're Dogman. I think that your mountain troll and these two are something different. Mm-hmm. They may be maybe cousins, but they've been distant for a long time. Mm-hmm. They're very unique.
Or just something different. Similar, but just different. Different genotype, similar phenotype.
All right. So before we go, let's bounce back to Bigfoot.
Okay.
So, type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. Do you remember them all?
Yes.
Patty is 1, skunk ape's 2.
Big, tall ogres 3.
Yep.
And man-like eastern.
Our Bigfoot is
4.
Yeah. What's a subspecies? So what's a phenotype? What's a genotype?
So the genotype is the gene, the makeup genes.
I mean, no, like who are you putting as what?
Oh, gotcha. I think 1 and 4, same genotype.
Okay, I'm right there with you.
2. See, I think 2 also you could lump in with that genotype. You could. I don't know if I think you could lump it up, and then their phenotypes are just extremely different for the environment. Because southern is swamp. It's it's night and day different than northwest and
I'm
northeast.
not arguing with that.
Yeah.
You have the plantigrade foot, like our Bigfoots do, because they're mostly walking on hard ground, versus that swamp life. You may be a lot more in trees.
Exactly, grabbing on the trees and stuff like that. Because you don't want to. I would imagine I wouldn't want to navigate through a swamp all the time.
So I don't think that's true, but it's very possible.
Yeah.
So
but that's kind of where I'm leaning. I want to explore that. I think that's a possibility. But then number 3 is could be I'll say it could be the genotype still. Could be. But like we talked about earlier, breaking it down, it could develop different phenotypes. It could be like an alpha male. It could be, like you said, that not breeding anymore. And now it's just a peacekeeping dominant forest guardian.
Living building.
Yeah. Could be that part.
It's 15 foot tall. That'd be just...
See, but then, yeah, you're almost on its own. That would be its own phenotype then.
I don't know if it could eat enough at that size.
So maybe even that size, maybe those ones aren't the flesh and blood like what we think. Maybe those
and
ones
that's a
are
whole other category
Yeah.
that's not in this episode.
Correct, yeah. But, that may be a way to throw out number 3 as being something else completely, too.
So I'm with 1 and 4,
Mm-hmm.
same genotype, different phenotypes. If you brought a Pacific Northwest Bigfoot here, it would have probably our kind of Bigfoot babies, and vice versa. You took one of our Bigfoots over there, it'd start having the more conical heads. So with the conical head, the sagittal crest, it's specifically developed for jaw strength.
Okay.
That's why pit bulls have a big one. That's why your chows have a big one, because that's where their jaw muscles attach extra on top of the head for extra bite strength. So they're eating more, in my head, they're eating more rougher foliage. They're eating more acorns. They're eating more stuff like that. Acorns have a lot of nutrients in them. We talked about it last night with Josh. Oh, I did, with Josh. They're not good to eat. They're good for you.
I've always heard they're poisonous.
So it depends on the species.
Oh, okay. I thought all of them were.
No, people make pine cone.
Oh, pine cones. Okay, yes.
I said the wrong thing.
Okay.
Pine cones.
Okay, but wait, before you get pine cones, are acorns poisonous?
No.
Okay.
You can't eat them.
I can't?
No.
Oh, okay.
They may be toxic to us, but a lot of animals eat them.
Yeah.
Buckeyes are poisonous.
Yes, I knew them were. Buckeyes are, yeah. Don't eat them.
That's why squirrels bite the hole in the side and let them rot a little bit, because it gets rid of the poison. But yeah, so pine cones.
Pine cones, yes.
They're eating more pine cones, stuff like that. There's hard debris that's still getting nutrients.
They eat the actual whole cone?
We do. People boil them and eat them.
Really?
Like candy.
Where do the pine nuts come from?
That's another type of pine tree. It's like a little cluster.
Okay. In my head, I always thought they came out of the cones.
No, so the pine cone seeds, or the pine tree seeds, are like little helicopter seeds.
Okay.
They fall out of the shell.
Okay.
But there's a lot of food in it. Anyways.
I didn't know any of this, so I'm learning.
Yeah. So there's a lot of maybe hard mass is what that's called. It's mass vegetation. It's very hard to eat.
Yeah.
But they may be taking advantage of that, so they need that extra bite muscle to chew this stuff up.
Yeah, makes sense. My chow does like to hang out under the pine tree. That's her favorite spot. To
Probably
just chill.
eating the pine cones.
Yeah, maybe so. That's
right.
That's her spot.
Anything else for this phenotype and genotype episode?
I don't think I have any more to add. I like this one. This has been very informative.
I hope so. So this will come right out after, I don't know, somewhere.
I learned something this episode.
Good.
That stuck.
Good.
That don't happen often.
And everybody at home, I think now you're pretty well educated on this stuff to make your own decisions on stuff when you start seeing it on TV, the YouTube. We all watch all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of just like I've said 8 times during this episode, that's my big pet peeve, is when people want to convince people that they're right, so you use big words the average person doesn't maybe know the full meaning of, to make you think that they're smart.
Right. They try to coagulate everything together into a photosynthesized,
Yes. All right. So yeah, now you're educated. Now you can make your own decisions. But yeah, just go off of that and just decide who you want to believe now, because that's all it is. Nobody knows anything about these things. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a lot of faith and a lot of speculative science.
Mm-hmm. To end this, let's end the show on this.
Okay.
Sometimes a lot of things, it just breaks down to your faith in it. A lot of faith, I don't know, a lot of just self-belief in things is really what reality is all about.
And on that profound note,
yes,
I've been the great and powerful Mr. E.
And I've been the man in the corn, Jay.
And together we are Cryptids Corn Podcast. Thank you for joining us this episode. Catch us next week with more exciting, fun, and interesting topics. All right.
You've been listening to Cryptids of the Corn. Be sure to join us in the next episode, where we tantalize your intellect and expand the horizons of your mind. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, stay magical.
You made it. Here. Finally. Checked out of office to check into the sweet views of that place you've always wanted to go. You know the one. It's nice. Even the kids like it.
This place is so cool.
And they never like it.
Mom, can we go to the pool?
Look at that. Not even asking for the Wi-Fi. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.